But I watched it time to time. In the early 80s, I watched it a lot, especially, during the Saturday mornings deals with WWF, I was crazy about it back then. But I watched it once in a while. At that point, I never even lifted a weight, I wasn't into the weights or anything like that. I wasn't at the gym or anything like that. I saw an ad on. I was watching WCW Monday Nitro, and they had an ad on TV. They actually had Lodi. Remember that cat Lodi?
Yeah, I remember Lodi.
He's a nice guy. They actually had Lodi up in the crowd with a sign. Remember he was doing that gimmick where he had the signs?
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah, so he had a sign that said "Wanna Wrestle?" ? And then it had a 404 Atlanta area code number. I didn't know what the hell that was. I tried to get the number, write it down. I missed it. So I watched it next week, and I taped it, and I got the phone number. I called it. It was the WCW power plant, So I ended up calling them, and I spoke with Jody Hamilton, the original assassin, and he said, "Hey, kid, what do you look like? How big are you? Are you an athlete?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, get a physical and come down." And he gave me a tryout date. I got a physical. I scrounged up $350, and I went down there with a plane ticket. I think my tryout cost me $250. 30 of us tried out. And I think by the third day I was the only guy left. Everybody else had quit or got hurt. So
wow.
I made it through. Ask anybody who's been to one of those WCW tryouts. Dave Bautista Dave Bautista tried out. He made it like an hour.
Wow.
I was there. You ask, I was there. He puked. I think he puked. They pulled his shirt off his back, made him wipe up his puke, and then put his shirt back on him, and then kicked him in the ass out the door.
Wow.
I read about that in the book.
But I'm not saying that was cool. I'm just saying that it was a weeding out process. They wanted guys to really want it. They didn't teach you anything about wrestling in the beginning. They just beat you up, and if you hung in for 3 days, then you'd get an opportunity to go to the camp. And that's what happened. I got the opportunity to go to the camp, and I came back to San Diego. I sold my belongings, everything I had, and I drove across country with my daughter was almost 2 years old at the time. Drove across country with her, and showed up at the power plant. I show up at the power plant, get to the parking lot with a U-Haul trailer on my pickup, and the guys are laughing at me, and I'm going, "What? What's going on here?" And they were telling me, "Hey man, no one ever made it out of the power plant." I'm going, "Oh great," So here I am with my life in a U-Haul trailer, and I ended up getting myself a motel. We lived in a motel for a while, and started training. And my wife was working full time to support my training. That was it, man. That's dedication.
You made it through the ranks pretty quick. What do you think attributed to that?
Well, there's a few things that were going on at the time. The power plant. J.J. Dillon had come down to the power plant, and he noticed there was a bunch of guys down there. So he decided we got to do something with these guys. It was starting to become like a scam down there. They were taking in all kinds of guys off the street who were paying to train, and no one was going on TV. So Bischoff had told JJ, we got to clear this place out. Take the guys you think are worth something. We're going to start a new power plant right at the WCW headquarters, which is about a couple miles away. Keep an eye on these guys. So anyway, they got Orndorff in charge. They made him the head guy. They got rid of Jody Hamilton. Orndorff called Jimmy Hart down because Jimmy was running the Saturday night television show at the time. You guys remember that show?
Yep.
WCW Saturday night. Jimmy was booking that show. Jimmy's a sweetheart, by the way. He came down, looked at a few of us. I don't know, and we ended up being, we ended up becoming the Natural Born Thrillers after that, if you guys remember that. But he took a few of us, started mixing us in with the veterans on the Saturday night show, and, we were off and running. Unfortunately, Vince Russo came down to the power plant. He looked at us. He liked a lot of the guys, and he started putting us on TV, But that's pretty much it. Anybody who knows wrestling will tell you I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. My first year on TV, I was, green as grass, and I didn't get the opportunity to learn through the indie ranks, so I learned on TV,
Right, and that seems to be the issue with a lot of the guys now. It seems like they don't have the indie experience, and they're getting thrown right here on TV, and then 3 weeks later we're like, what happened to such and such?
Right, right.
Do you think that not being able to develop the talent, staying in the Florida or, you know, Ohio Valley or wherever it may be, do you think that's hurting these guys more than it's helping them?
Absolutely. If you notice, there was a spurt of time there when OVW was pretty strong, and they were pulling some guys out of there that could work. You know.
Right.
And I'm not saying not experienced workers, but guys who had an idea. The guys now that they're bringing in, no knock on them. You know what I mean? But they just don't have the time in front of people, and that's where the independents help. But the only problem is there's nowhere to work. There's nowhere for these guys to go, and I feel a lot of these guys are coming in for to make a quick buck. Ex-football players or whatever come in. They go to the camp. WWE brings them in because they're big and strong. They go into the camp, and then they push them on TV right away, and they can't even carry a match. So
right.
Now that's not a knock on them either, and actually it's not even a knock on WWE. They're just struggling to find young talent, and there really isn't a talent out there anymore because there's no territories for these guys to work in.
That's true. It seems like besides Ring of Honor and a couple, PWA, Booker T's promotion down in Texas and a couple other places, it doesn't seem like there's anything out there.
Right. Right. I mean, back when, I don't know how old you guys are, but when I was younger, back when WWF was, the early WWF was around, there was territories all over the place, and
right.
They just don't have it anymore. So, and I noticed too, man. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the wrestlers are a lot younger. It seems like than they used to be.
Yeah, it seems like you see these things. People have started wrestling at age 16 in actual promotions, but I had the fortunate chance to speak with Kurt Angle at one point, and he said that even some of the guys in TNA, they're not there developed yet. I guess this is where the stars of the old WCW WWE days come in and help nurture these guys. But they're doing spots that are like crazy, like they're jumping out of the ring just to jump back into the ring, and so stuff like that doesn't really add up to making much sense just to get the pop. So.
No, exactly. That stuff will change, man, with those guys. We all did, everybody does that in the beginning. They think more is better when, in all actuality, less is better, There's no way a guy can take a bump over the top rope, land on the floor, and should be able to get up and run a spot,
Right.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but that just takes time. They'll start to understand that. I think they're so enthused to impress, and they're looking for that instant pop or whatever instead of telling a story. So I think that'll come with time. But I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and Chuck, you mentioned a lot of these guys kind of coming in new, don't know what they're getting into, and you notice with the WWE, I know it's something they've always done, but it seems like they're bringing more and more, like second and third generation, superstars in. Do you think that's why? Because maybe those guys kind of learn from, like maybe DiBiase learning from his dad, or Cody Rhodes learning from his dad, how the business is, and they kind of have faith in these guys that they'll stick with it.
Absolutely. I think, a lot of these second and third generation guys, they grew up around the business. They've watched their dads work. So they get it a little quicker. Randy Orton's a perfect example, man. That kid, he's an unbelievable talent, But his dad was too, and his father. So, I mean, but, and I think Ted DiBiase, man, he's going to be he's another Orton, if you ask me. Not yet, but he's on his way,
That's what everyone's predicting. So.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way, yep.
Yeah, I think so. He's a good kid too, man. So he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's gonna be just fine. Yeah, definitely. Look at Rocky. Rocky, same thing, right? And here's the thing: a lot of